Welcome to Solutions from the Yard, a candid discussion about life behind bars and its effect on society. We'll discuss reintegration or reentry back into the community post-incarceration. Your host for this episode is Michael Dickerson L.
Today we're going to revisit our topic, homelessness after reentry leads to high recidivism. And we left off on a very what I want to say touchy subject, because it's something that we're going to really get back into because people need to know what's going on with your money.
That's right.
And where does it goes. And we was basically touching on homelessness after reentry is expensive for taxpayers. And I asked the brothers a question. Who benefits from expenses from taxpayers' dollars and where does it go? And Brother Dietrich, I want you to elaborate on that.
Yes. How you doing? Well, my answer is the judicial system benefits from it. Because, I'm speaking on, I don't see no change when it comes to homelessness in my city, and let's define homelessness first of all, right? So like I said before, that's anyone without your name on a deed, mortgage, lease. If you don't have that, you was technically considered homeless. So a lot of people, navigate in that lane, but the true homeless, the ones that we truly see outside, under-resourced, sleeping on outside on the ground, I don't see no change. I don't see none of the monies going to anything for any programs. I ain't seen a new development from the tax dollar that's geared towards the homeless shelter. Only one shelter I always known about my life, that was Mitch Snyder building. That's been forever. I didn't see no new development. I didn't see a lot of other developments, but I haven't seen nothing when it comes compared to the homeless tax dollar. I haven't seen anything, initiative or anything geared towards it. And I hear a lot of money's being pushed around in the name of homeless for that, but I haven't seen anything that's feasible, that's going to be truly a benefit, not only to the people that are homeless, but also the city as well, because it takes two sides, right? And for me personally, like I said, if you kill homeless, you're going to kill incarceration. If you kill incarceration, you're going to kill the homeless. So I don't think it's going to, I'm going to rest my mic.
Well, Chuck, I know you willing to play devil advocate with this. What you got to say?
And I'm looking at it from the perspective of when I looked at the mayor of District of Columbus budget, and she put in there, under the title of reversing the homelessness in the District of Columbia. So she's saying that the money she allocating for to reverse homelessness or start the process was $24 million. Now, this is everybody. She didn't say $24 million for people that's returning citizen. She's saying everybody that falls up under the homeless category. Then she put $34 million into bike lanes. So now the question is, who benefits from homelessness is major corporations. Who benefits from homelessness is, like you say, the criminal justice. They get ready to build another city jail. They get ready to build another jail. And so if you build it, you're going to feel it.
Right.
And the people that's going to feel, we talked earlier, Mike, about how you criminalize homelessness. So now if you criminalize it, then the monies that taxpayers are paying are not going towards like renovating schools and making them shelters. It's not going towards like what you see some of the condominiums around the city and getting major corporations say, well, we're going to give you a tax credit for your development, but we want you also to take and pay for the renovation of these schools or these properties for the purpose of providing housing for DC citizens. No, what you do, you give them tax credits, you put more money into the police's budget, you create in the criminal justice system, the courts, the bailiffs. This is where the taxpayers' money going to. When you look at the budget, if you say I'm putting $24 million into reversing homelessness. This is taxpayers' monies. That's where the budget coming from. Taxpayers' money, right? So if I'm putting 24 million of your tax dollars into this, but I'm putting 34 million into bike lanes, I'm putting 52 million into police, I'm putting 92 million into building of a jail. That answers your question, where the money's going.
So basically, when they take the taxpayers' dollars, that's what you kind of like explained was misappropriating funds.
That's what it looked like.
Because instead of the money going exactly back into what it's supposed to, because if that's just like if I tell you, look, Chuck, I need some money from you. I'm gonna get $20 from you, and I tell you what I'm gonna do with the $20. But I turn around and do something totally opposite what I'm gonna do with the $20, and that's basically what what we are seeing in the city when it comes to the taxpayers' dollars. It's not going exactly into what like Dietrich said, to the change. Because if you taking the taxpayers' dollars and actually putting it back into what you say it's supposed to go into, then you will see a change. But you, like I said, you never see the change, because I see tents everywhere. And you got organizations, like the one that I work for. Nobody ain't paying us to do what we do. We just doing it because the organization has a love for the citizens of Washington, D.C. So therefore, if you taking the taxpayers' dollars, why that ain't come to us to do what we doing to help feed the homeless? So therefore, that mean, we don't have to be no rocket scientists to see that, because you see where the money is going. It's not coming to the proper places that's going to actually help solve the problem.
And I want because we talked about this earlier. Going back to that right there, the organizations that's doing the work, that's providing services for homeless people, that's putting people in hotels, that's taking people in and finding them shelters, that's putting them in a position to get emergency. See, the taxpayers' dollars, because it's a public safety, and we talked about how I say like reversing recidivism is also a public safety thing. So we know that it goes hand in hand. Why the taxpayers' money is not going towards those things? You know what I'm saying? Why the taxpayers' money not going towards an organization that's saying, okay, I'm going to provide you with a hotel, and if you give me more money, I'm going to renovate these houses and put some people in there. No, I'm not a Cloud Corporation, construction. I'm not Donahue Corporation, construction. So therefore, I don't get no tax. I'm not going to get no tax credit for that. What I'm going to get is the problem and not no money to solve it.
Because, like you saying, when that money get extracted, that money should be going to more public housing. Because if you want to stop homelessness, then you got to create more homes.
That's right.
So therefore, by creating more, taking that taxpayers' dollars, one of the things you should be is trying to create more homes.
That's right.
And see, that's the thing what I saw about reentry, because that's what we talking about. We are talking about returning citizens and how they are a part of the homelessness problem and recidivism rate. Because when brothers and sisters come home, the proper funds are not put into housing them. And see, we done seen, the thing you got to go through with SPDATs. And you got to have special SPDAT training. Why these funds are not going to the organizations so we can get these vouchers? Every organization you think that's in Washington, D.C., that's reentry, should do vouchers. But why it's only select? You know what I'm saying? You got select organizations that only have the vouchers. Those vouchers should be coming to every reentry organization. The way I see it.
Yeah, that's a good point.
You see what I'm saying? And also, the SPDAT training should be done for every reentry organization. It shouldn't be pick and choose who have what. There shouldn't be no picking and choosing, because, we got thousands and thousands on top of thousands of homeless people. So therefore, if we got all these different reentry organizations, that's where the money should be going to help us supply, the supply and demand
There
of
you go,
returning
Mike. There you
citizens.
go, Mike. That's
You see
right.
what I'm saying? To keep the
right.
recidivism rate down,
That's right.
because the recidivism rate is caused by what? The homelessness.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man, this is a deep topic. Go. You want to elaborate on it, Diedrich, again?
I want to. You have a question? I don't want to stop you, and I could probably say it with a quick.
No, go ahead.
Okay, so I just want to make a point, right? And y'all making valid points, but if they give the tax dollar money into initiative as far as housing, when it comes to returning citizen, and have some type of grid system, a point system, part of your release plan. Every prisoner that's a DC citizen prisoner, that's a DC returning citizen, should have some type of housing intake prior to them even coming home. They should be, where you score at on this? Do you have proper housing before we release you back into our society? And we ain't holding you. We just want to know, if you don't have proper housing, this is, you score it here, so we need to go ahead and start the proper paperwork to make sure you don't commit no recidivism when you go back to our city. This is how you really stop homelessness and that, and for people coming back and forth from prison. But like I said, I don't truly think they, if I don't never have a home, how can I be? If I never owned a home or never had a home or anything of that nature, coming from years through the jurisdictional system, because it started go all the way back. Because if you seen a child was at a high risk at an age of 16 or 17 years old or 15, whatever, and you knew he's going to be a high risk when he meet the age of adulthood, why we don't put a plan in early to go against it, to try to help him with the resources we have? Make sure, hey, we see that he come from a broken home and he's not going to be here this long, he or his family. So let's put him up for success. Because if we don't, he going to wreck terror in our neighborhood trying to be successful. So let's put him up for success. See, hey, man, you're going to need some type of proper housing, because if you don't have nowhere to sleep at tomorrow, you're not thinking about nothing.
That's right.
You don't care about nothing.
Now we know where the taxpayers' dollar goes. Now we're going to get back into the next insert. COVID-19 helped prove that cities can address homelessness without criminalizing it. During the COVID-19 pandemic, cities changed the way they address homelessness to limit exposure to the virus. Many cities worked to keep jail and prison populations low. In Denver, police interacted less with people experiencing long-term homelessness and made fewer arrests during the pandemic. Though this reduced the number of homeless people re-entering the system, it does not address other concerns related to unsheltered homelessness. Formerly incarcerated people experiencing homelessness after re-entry need programs that will provide shelter and necessary medical treatment. They also need access to mental health support. Among formerly incarcerated people, those with mental illness are more likely to experience homelessness and housing insecurity. Initiatives in New Jersey show that discriminalization, homelessness, and providing mental health services can work. The introduction of alternatives to incarceration and community-based treatment centers has reduced prison populations by 37% since 1999. According to Patricia Kurgan, the causes of homelessness after being released from prison or jail are both systematic and relative of the extraordinary needs of people who are inevitably returning to the community. Successful models do exist for prisoners facing homelessness and warrant consideration for replaceability. One of the models Kurgan highlights is a program in Washington called the Reentry Housing Pilot Program. Through the program, more than 200 formerly incarcerated people received safe and affordable housing and support services. The program showed a decline in new convictions and remission to prison. And brother Charles, I'm a definitely get into this question straightforward to you, and because it mentioned the pivot program, and I want you to give your example from your own personal experience, about what could have been done better to better help reentry during COVID.
And we recognize that. Remember when COVID came out, the state of Maryland, Governor Hogan, and the District of Columbia, they was out the forefront in terms of informing people and educating people. But what happened was you had certain state's attorneys, and Marilyn Mosley in Maryland, she was saying, and Baltimore was saying, like, get the Justice Department, get Trump and them on board to releasing people from the DC jails and from the detention centers, because they didn't have the high bail. So that was the first thing they was trying to do, get people sent. But then once you got people released, they had no place to go. So now what could have been done was, we go back to what we said earlier. The problem with this is you don't look at the prison industrial complex as it relates to society. It's always a disconnect. So if you're looking at it from the perspective that these people coming back out, then you will start doing things before they get out. And same thing with, like, when you seen COVID hitting the deck, first thing you should have been thinking about is you won't have to release them, have a plan or have a place to release them, as opposed to having released back into society with COVID, as opposed to having a place where you spend your money, shelters, you spend your money to provide safe havens for them to come. But that wasn't the case. And subsequently, a lot of people was released that had COVID and either passed away or was locked back up or passed it on and fell out in, unclaimed body in the alley.
Yeah, that's devastating right there. Dietrich, what you want to say about this question?
During the pandemic, there was a lot of unexpected changes that happened within the jurisdictional system, just in life period. And a lot of people, it was a lot of unexpected releases that people did, brothers wasn't even thinking that they had a chance. And but COVID hit, not to be this sensitive towards the COVID-19, because a lot of people lost their lives, but it was a blessing for a lot of brothers because they didn't see no outcome, and COVID opened the doors up. I agree with you when it comes to because it should have been a better plan releasing, some of these brothers with housing security, because the government was shut down. Everything was shut down.
That's right.
So who they was gonna go to? Man, I know a lot of brothers walking around within the city didn't have any form of identification during COVID, right? And you walk, and that's a crime right there. You walking without no identification,
yeah, you better know it.
right? So it was a lot that was going on as far as during the COVID, and I feel, it was always two sides to everything. It's something that something that you're gonna take from it that was good, and that was the release of a lot of brothers and sisters that got the scene to get to come home during the COVID. And then it was also the part of, there was a lot of brothers and sisters that was dying inside them prisons due to COVID, the way they was being treated, and the way a lot of them was coming back out here during the height of COVID, didn't know how to adapt to the world, let alone you adapted to it before COVID, and then you coming home during the height of a pandemic and trying to adapt to these barriers of being a returning citizen. I think there's a lot of brothers and sisters that's still out there in the streets now that came home during the COVID that's are homeless today because they went undocumented for the barriers that they needed to have served for help them be successful coming home.
That's good stuff there.
I came home in the height of COVID. And one thing I seen, I think they was trying to really escape from a lot of collateral damage.
Come on.
And and when they released a lot of us, like you said, Charles, they didn't have no plan. So, but their idea of releasing a lot of us to keep a lot of collateral damage from in prison. So that was one of the reasons why they let us out. Because now, if a lot of guys and brothers and sisters was dying in prison, now you got to face certain lawsuits. Now we got to come up with a whole lot of ways to spend money that we don't want to spend.
That's right, Mike.
So they was basically doing it. It was, to me, it was a money thing from what I saw.
Nah, I got you.
And because and then a lot of guys that came home and it still fed the justice system, because a lot of guys that came home, they had clauses in their release because they was basically saying once the COVID epidemic went down, you had to come back to jail. How you gonna release me then bring me back to prison? So therefore it was a lot of, just unjust and just, wild stuff that was going on. Then you had a lot of, it was just a lot of law breaking. Everybody was breaking law. Everybody was standing on the corner smoking weed. Just was going crazy because the police, they didn't, they was giving the no hands on policy. So guess what? Washington, D.C. turned to an escape from New York. It was just lawless. People just was doing whatever they wanted to do, but they said, "Hey, once this pandemic go down, we gonna start back locking y'all back up." So therefore, to me, I think from my point of view, it was just basically just allowing you to become worse. The pandemic to me made things worse, and far as when it comes to the justice system, because now you have so many people that was used to abusing being lawless. Now you done created another whole criminal. We done created another whole criminal, and it's just like I say, it's going back into how you can extract money from the taxpayers. Hey, we need more policing. We need a little more money. Let me grab a little more from you now. So to me, it was just a way to make more money. And that's what I saw out of it. It was just a way to make more money. And just, the way to, cause the chaos and then come up with the solution.
Premeditation.
Yeah, basically. And that's all it really was. To me, it was premeditated because, like Deidre said, man, there was a lot of good that came out of it because I came home. I wasn't supposed to come home until 2023. So it released me 3 years later, but it also hindered me as well because speaking for myself, when I came home, I did 24 years. I needed mental health assessment, and it was not there. And see, that's why I said, man, you released a lot of brothers and sisters that needed help, and they couldn't get the help because of the shutdown. So once the shutdown came about, now you really created a more, like I say, a criminalized system. Because if I come home, can't get no help, can't get no job, everybody was like on a no hands policy. You got to wear your mask everywhere. Guess what? When I come home, what I'm going to do? If it wasn't for me just staying fast and just stuck on surviving and not breaking law, that I would have went back to jail because it was nothing for me. It was nothing for me. And I think that it did some good, but it did a lot of harm. It did a lot of harm. And like I say, I think it more so, perpetuated the crime in Washington, D.C. And let's get into this last insert. And it says, alternatives to criminalized homelessness exist and deserve more attention from legislators. And it says, Urban Institute put together a series of resources to help advocate and lawmakers evaluate alternatives to policing homelessness. In their most recent report, Alternatives to Arrest and Police Response to Homelessness, researchers investigated the connection between unsheltered homelessness and recidivism. Like other justice reform initiatives popping up around the country, one of their takeaways is that police must fundamentally change the way they interact with the homeless. Now let's get into that. How they interact with the homeless. I just want us to really ponder on that, how they interact with the homeless. And we got the George Floyd situations, all these different situations that we have. And I just asked the question and said, in this, what alternatives should have been viewed by legislators. Chuck, give me something on that.
I think in keeping our mission, offering solutions, I think the way legislation look at it is, one, fund organizations that's providing services for homelessness. That's one of the things that could be done. And when you put the money into these organizations that's out here actually doing the work, then the homeless people, the people that's being homeless, they'll come. They'll know I'm coming to Voice for a Second Chance, I'm going to get a place to stay. They know if I'm going to Nehemiah Pride, I'm going to get a place to stay. I'm Bread for I'm going to get a place to stay. Strive, I'm going to get a place to stay. They know if I go to these organizations because the money's there and they provide housing, then I'm going to get a place to stay. So the legislators should legislate. That's when you go have your budget hearing. You should be having your budget hearings on who is providing services for homeless. And therefore, we want to make sure that they get the money. And so when the mayor put a budget together, the legislators saying like, well, we want this $90 million to go to these organizations. We want this $100 million to go to these organizations, because they provide services for homelessness. And we ain't defunding the police. We saying that your budget should be shrunk based on what you're doing. Because if you're out there policing and criminalizing homeless people, that's a sad commentary.
Deidre, what you think?
With me, I personally think that we need to address the problem from the root, right? And as far as dealing with the legislators, dealing with the laws and stuff, there's a few laws when it comes to housing in general that birth homelessness amongst the people, right? I've been living, and I'm gonna give you a few examples of what some of the laws and bylaws and rules and guides that's placed in place to impregnate the homeless population and then give birth to homeless. For example, you living in certain housing authority buildings, and I don't want to call it projects because that's what the project was, the name of the thing coming from another. It was all a project, putting people in there in a particular place under resource, take everything away from them and watch them do what they do. So it's a project. That's why the name come from project, the name. So I don't want to keep holding on to that name. So speaking about the homeless, about how they're generated, as a man, I don't care what race you is. I ain't pulling for it. It don't matter what race you is. If I catch a charge, I'm no longer allowed back in my house with my family. So what did this do? This birth homelessness. Now we have a mother and a family in there that needs the man to help produce the help. I have 3 kids. I can't pay this bill without my husband in this house no more, because he's not no longer allowed here. If he come on his property, get locked up. See how it all works? And he gets locked up. So now she have to put in for the move because she can't afford this no more. It pregnates homeless. So now she's going to be considered homeless till she finds a place. Now she got to go into the shelter with her babies. He can't come to follow his family to the shelter because he's a man. They don't accept men in this shelter, even if you're married and your kids in there. All the laws and everything is geared towards, pregnating the homeless population and also keep birthing more homeless people. Because we, like I always said, I keep going back to it, it's part of the conveyor belt. It's part of one wash one hand, one wash the other hand. One feed one feed another. It's all feeding one thing, and that's the dollar, to generate the dollar. And I don't really see no true legislation or laws that's being placed that really put a dent in homeless, because I'm out there every day in the community and I feed them and I talk to them. I'm there. So I don't see no true change. I hear a lot of talk. And that's my end of I'm sticking to that.
There you have it. For Solutions from the Yard. Thank you very much.
You've been listening to Solutions from the Yard. This podcast is presented by Voices for a Second Chance, a comprehensive reentry program that provides culturally appropriate, trauma-informed, gender-specific, and peer-based services. For more information, go to info@vscdc.org or visit our website at www.vscdc.org.